Okay, welcome to the next session of creating art over 70, the Raven painting. Enough said, let's get started. Sometimes when you're doing your paintings, you just want to be creative, and please understand that every time I sit down here to do a picture, it's totally from the painting's perspective itself, the heart. You know, I think that's why it takes me a while to put my paintings together because there's artists out there on YouTube. And I've watched a few of them, and I've watched their real time paintings. And the real time paintings, they could do them within a couple of hours or so. Um, 3 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, but they get it in the real time process. I don't know, I, you know, I don't know if it just takes years and years of practice to come up with a steadfast workflow that you always use, that no matter what your subject is. I say that to say this. I have, I'm trying to make sure I understand my workflow as I go. This is a journey and I'm learning, you know. So my workflow, I think it changes depending on the project. Out there's some basic stuff that's some basic stuff that you have to adhere to in order to produce a piece that's believable, right? So I guess you could say when I'm when I start my pieces, most of the time I think I like to start with the darker values and work up to the lighter values because it's all about the lighting and the shadows to make it believable and to make it look three-dimensional on a two-dimensional surface. So I seem to always start with the darker values. Yeah, to work my way up to the lighter ones. Some every once in a while I start more with the mid-tone values. Um, and then work my way in both directions. But the beauty of being able to paint, and especially with pastels, you can. I've seen artists start with the lighter values, and I've seen artists start with the darker values, and of course, mid mid tone values also. So it's really it's really truly about your preference, which what works for you. It's about what works for you, and you will discover it as you go along. But once you take that first step and get busy, and then you start to develop more confidence in your abilities, things just seem to come together for you. It's like I was alluding to earlier in some of the earlier videos. I was talking about how when I started working with the pastels, I started you know trying to lay things down so I would get the right proportions. I was using grids, I was using projectors, I was using reverse type sheets. I'm drawing a blank for the name of that sheet right now. I'm trying to carbon paper type sheets in order to lay the in order to lay the piece on the paper, the subject on the paper, the outlines of the subject on the paper. However, over time, because because I challenged myself and I pushed myself to do it not only where I'm comfortable with it, but where it works for me. And so I start with the darker colors, the darker values that seem to work well for me, and then I move up to the lighter values from there. But yeah, I started with grids and tracing and all that, and then once I discovered Rinsno's art on YouTube and the style that he used and the approach he used to lay down his subject on the canvas or on the paper taught me a lot. Built my confidence too, because I started trying it, right? And the thing is, really truly understanding the anatomy that you're working with. And once again, I'm not saying you have to know all the bones and all the muscles. You need to understand how they come together, how they work together. And that's why when I approach my pieces, I take time. I take a lot of time. So a lot of the time I sit back looking at the piece, right? I'm not even doing painting. I'll sit back on the little love seat, just kind of behind the station, and just look at the piece and see where it is, where I'm going, if it's really working, and look at what I need to do. All those things. One important thing you want to know is the direction of your lighting. I try to light my pieces, and I try to put as much of the lighting in it as I can, and the shadows in it as I can. I like the concept of dynamic lighting. That's what I used to really focus on when I was doing some of the training courses that Aaron Blaze has over at creatureartteacher.com. And he pushed the dynamic lighting. I always try to lay in the forms. What I'm really working on now is my my touch, because I really started off not knowing better, but um, pretty heavy-handed with my pencils, and so I'm working on that, because what happens when you're heavy-handed like that, you have a tendency to use up all the teeth on whatever paper you're working with. Okay, got something going And so when I work and when I lay in the forms, I lay in as much of it as I can before I start trying to really refine the detail. What that does for me is when I lay it in, then I know the anatomy I'm working with underneath it, when I could see it visually. And so what that does, is help me understand the different planes and directions of flow of any of the pieces I'm laying on top of that particular anatomy. And so, our surface, I should say, whatever surface I'm working on top of, I need to understand the planes that are underneath and how. Okay, I think I'm gonna call this a session. I'm struggling here with my shadows, because the actual color I use, I don't have any more of this particular color. Well, it's so short, I can't sharpen it, and plus it's so flaky that when I try to sharpen it, I lose it. Maybe I'll try sharpening it with a razor if push comes to shove, because I won't be able to go get it before Monday. Today is actually the 4th of July. Happy 4th of July. I know you probably won't see this on the 4th, but I hope you had a good 4th of July. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna stop right here because I really need this. I've started with this is my darkest value, and so I really need my darkest value in order to work outward to get the tones that I'm trying to capture, especially around like the jewelry areas. I need some darker in there, so the jewelry will stand out from the under surface, so it look like it's sitting on the surface, not part of the surface. And so I need this to work that. And so I'm laying it in here, but it's I'm not feeling comfortable because I'm thinking about this color. Even when I was laying in the hair area, I was thinking about this color because that's how I was worked it to blend it. I looked for another blue in a different brand. However, it wasn't doing what I wanted. It had more of a bluish, grayish look to it. I'm not sure. I use it right in here. It's kind of like a bluish, greenish look. I use that pencil, but I want to, change that. I want to put in the actual blue because that's what I started with. And it helps me build out the values that I need for as the shadowing of the piece. And so either I'm going to wait till Monday to continue with Raven. I think I'm going to have to. So I'll probably do some editing and stuff the next couple of days until I can get to the store to get that color. You know. Yeah. So, and actually when I was looking at let me turn this off for a second. When I was looking at the reference here, I noticed Raven has a net on covering the hair in this area, right? That's an actual net that Raven is wearing. In my piece, I'm gonna exclude the net. The net is, it's cool, but I don't really want to do just this part because you really. The netty part here, it's not really well defined, and it's kind of why try to put that level of detail in the piece. Yes, it would be a challenge. Yes, it would push the piece a little further, but the question is why? Why even attempt to do that? And you could capture the story. You can capture the story. You can capture Raven without the net, without the hairnet. So I'm going to exclude that. So anyway, let me shut this session down. This is going to be a short session, creating art over 70, the painting Raven. Thank you for watching. See you in the next session. Okay, instead of stopping and waiting, I was trying a little bit of I actually pulled a little bitty piece of that pencil. I don't know which camera to show you this in, but you can see that off. And so I tried to do the workaround. So this is what I was saying when I was shutting down, is why I need that value. It's such a dark value that I could really, it's my darkest value that I have. So I need that, and I can always blend to come lighter, but I needed to get darker so I could bring out the contrast here. And so that's why I was going to wait. And so instead of waiting, though, I think I'm gonna work a little bit on this side here with some of the blues that I have. I don't think I really need that darkest blue, and I do have a darker pan pastel blue. I'm gonna try that and see what it does. Okay. Yeah, I really wanted to do more in this session. I wasn't ready to stop painting. So I wanted to continue on with something in the piece. One section. So sometimes when you paint, it's like you just want to, you get in this flow, and you just don't want to stop painting. And I really have to watch that because as we get older, we really need more sleep, more rest, and so. When I get in that mode and that flow, I'll get to working on something, and then I'll especially when I'm painting a piece like this, because when I stop the sessions, I sit and I watch. I look at the piece. I really just look at the piece. I look at what I've done and how it's working. I look at where I need to go, what else I need to do, and then I think about how, what am I going to try to get there to what it is I'm trying to do. And Cause yeah, I look at the piece and I'm like, okay, I let it talk to me, and then I say what I want to work on. Because I mean, if you look at a piece, it could be pretty overwhelming. You know, when you just sit down and look at a piece. If you say, for example, I look at this reference of Raven here, I'm like, oh, okay. It's like I'm gonna paint that, but it's like it's so much in it. It's so much detail. It's like what? Where do I start? What do I do first? Just remember, it's all layering, and layering, and it's wherever you start in your piece is the right place to start for you. And there's rules. Oh, I'm off here. There's rules to painting, to art. There's and you're gonna find that when you start hearing those rules and listening to those rules, and then when you start working on your piece and your artwork, you go, oh, rule of thirds, golden ratio, those different things that you remember, the different rules, how they come into play, and how you're supposed to use them. Okay, just over across. And so, I mean, you keep the rules in the back of your mind because I think it was Aaron Blaze said it once, and I said, yeah, I truly agreed with that statement. It's like, the rules are there, but you can bend them. You can really bend them. Coming from IT and doing programming and database administration and all that stuff, there's rules you have to follow. I mean, things just don't work. And some of them you can bend, and some of them you definitely should not bend. You should adhere to them totally. Let's go fade this out. Night. Detail down into here. Yeah, I felt like painting, so I didn't want to stop. I could do some more editing, because what I plan to do, my plan is to do these sessions, and as I do the sessions, I'll upload them or edit some and upload it as I go, instead of trying to wait till the whole piece is completed to upload it. And so the first session of this one, as I'm working on this right now, has already been uploaded. So that's the plan. And then the second session is in the edit phase. So So the flow is working so far, so we'll see where I can get with it. I'm gonna be the first to say I don't really re- know all the rules either. I never really sat down and had the formal art classes, no more than just the training tutorials um, that I watched online. So the rest of it is truly just is me letting the painting carry me. I remember when I was younger, way back in the day, actually drew the Hulk character. Oh man, I really was happy with that piece. I was like, oh man, the Hulk was so incredibly complicated. He had so much detail in his anatomy, the muscles and everything was crazy. However, I think when I look back on it now, as I look back on it now, I think that because of the complexity of his anatomy and me not really knowing anatomy at that time, made it easier for me to get it. And plus things we talk about now in art, like proportions and um, lights and shadows. When I don't want that anymore. Changed my mind. When I did the hook, I had no idea what that was. I looked at the comic book, literally at the comic book, and just tried to replicate what I saw with my pencils. And it worked. I did. I took that piece and to an art class, 'cause this is middle school here now. I'm really trying to do something with some things in middle school, even though I know I won't be going anywhere any further with it. I was trying to really enjoy the moment, and so I took that the Hulk and oh man, I can't remember what the other piece was for the life of me right now that I painted. It was another hero, superhero like that. I think I can't remember who it was. Okay, all right. Now it is time to stop. I'm going as far as I think I wanted to go on the Raven painting for today for this session. I think I want to take it easy, relax for a little bit. Played a little tennis today. I wasn't really into it today, but I still got out there and I played it. So I was kind of feeling it once I got back home. So anyway, on the Raven piece here, I started laying in some more of the colors into the jacket area here. I'm trying to make sure I stay consistent with respect to the direction of the lighting. That's where my shadows fall, and the lighting is definitely is coming in this direction. The lighting is coming in this direction, so that's why most of the shadows will fall on this side. And so I'm just trying to work that and stay a little consistent with it. Even though you see me popping in some of the light, as you look in the reference, you see, there's a lot of the there's a lot of light that's illuminating the jacket areas of the piece. So I'm trying to keep that in play and then still keep the shadows in play. Because when I took this reference, we were outside, so this is sunlight you're seeing here. I'm not sure. I don't remember if it was a mild overcast. I don't remember the day exactly because I took the background out of the picture. But there was a building in the background, so I didn't really want to be distracted by that. So I just took the subject out of the picture. This is the first time I tried that. But anyway, so this is natural sunlight that you see in here. So I'm trying to keep that in place. So if you look at Raven, you see I'm trying to keep that sunshiny glow on the face area, that sunshiny glow on the jacket area, that sunshiny glow on the jacket area. When I get to the jewelry, the majority of it's in shadow, but however, I want to try to make sure that I get some of these reflective highlights on this piece, and some of in the nose jewelry also. The little piece here, the neck band, has a face figure in it. I'm not gonna do a face figure. I'm just gonna do something. I don't want to go that small a detail in that smaller area. So forgive me, y'all. It could be done. I just want to move on to other things. I'm spending a lot of time with Raven as it is because I'm really enjoying this piece and its complexity. However, I'm going to simplify it to some degree when it comes to some of the jewelry on the piece. What else I want to say? I think I might keep the hair predominantly orange. At first I was going to work it down to like a orangey greeny mixture, but I'm liking the way the orange fits the piece for me. I'm liking that, even though that's not Raven's natural hair color. Raven's natural hair color is kind of a grayish, browny grayish color with some black out of it, popping through it. So anyway, this is what I want to go with. Now I like the orange. It's working for me. And this, I like the expression that I got going on here. I know I got to come back in and darken the eyeglasses a little bit. I'm still thinking that through as to which approach or how I'm going to accomplish that. And then there's still a little bit more work in the eyes that I can do as far as the shadowing and the highlights, and then bringing out the lashes, those type of things. Okay, so anyway, I think that's it for this session of Creating Art Over 70. Signed, Rufus. See you in the next session, for real this time.